Hello, my name is Ren, and in preparation for the 2018 Oscars, I've been giving out my predictions in small, 1 to 4 minute videos for each category. This one is going to be a little bit longer, so bear with me. I'm sure many of you are curious to hear what film I think will take home the big award for Best Picture, and my answer might surprise some of you. In this category, I've decided to do something a little different. I've ranked the films by their likelihood of winning. Given the fact that Harvey Weinstein is out of the game, I think we have a much more even playing field this year, with no clear winner, and I doubt there will be another upset like Shakespeare in Love. So starting at the bottom of the list, we have Darkest Hour. It's a World War II film about Winston Churchill. Most of the film is reliant on the performance by Gary Oldman. The film is good, not great, and it's the lesser of the two films nominated about the tragedy of Dunkirk. Call Me By Your Name is a film loved by many. It's a queer film, with an age gap while smaller in the narrative of the film, with Timothée Chalamet being 17 and Armie Hammer being 24? But the fact that Chalamet looks like he's 15 and Armie Hammer looks like he's 35 might make voters uncomfortable, outside of sheer homophobia. I personally wish the characters were more developed because I wasn't interested in the two of them enough to care where the relationship went. But what really bugged me the most about the film was there was too much lounging around and not enough conflict to keep me engaged. I was bored during most of the film. The film does have its shining moments though. The conversation with Michael Stuhlbarg on the couch, Timothée Chalamet's performance is great, and the final shot was amazing. But there's also a whole film outside of that, and that's where it didn't really work for me. It was on my worst of list, which was for no technical reasons. The cinematography and acting were competent to great, but Armie Hammer was a bit of a brick wall for me, and I personally hope that films like this aren't a major trend in queer cinema, because I want to like and support them, and if you followed my Oscar predictions last year, Moonlight was my favorite film of the year, and one of my favorite films of the decade so far. Does Call Me By Your Name have a chance? I doubt it. I found the film too meandering, and I'm pretty sure many of the other voters felt the same way. Phantom Thread was another great work by auteur-director Paul Thomas Anderson. However, I think it stands less of a chance of winning because, for a lot of people, the focus is more on the costumes than the story itself. The costumes certainly complement the story, but the film is actually more than just a mere costume drama. Dunkirk is our war film this year. And while war films have often been favorites for the Oscars, I think socially minded films are more likely to win, especially since many people are worried about another war erupting in our own times. I did like the fact that the film was more focused on survival than conflict, and most of the film was centered around characters that were unarmed. I think the film is a cinematic marvel. However, like I said in the directing segment, I think Christopher Nolan is a bit cold and lacking in the character department, and that severely hurts the film's chances of winning. The Post is the most blatant Oscar bait film of the bunch, surprisingly even more so than Darkest Hour. It's the spotlight of this year, and after the Washington Post has gotten a lot of heat lately for poor reporting, it seems a bit manipulative and propagandist to harken back to a time where the paper actually had integrity. The film is a thinly veiled attempt to use history to criticize current events with a president who is trying to make it illegal to report news that makes the country and himself look poor. The film is about the release of the Pentagon Papers, even though the papers themselves are sidelined to tell a bizarre female empowerment story about a woman who literally did the least amount of work on the project. I wonder who produced it. Oh, Amy Pascal, the same woman who greenlit Ghostbusters 2016. That makes sense. While Meryl Streep gives a good performance, she isn't given much to do besides throwing dinner parties and one good monologue, which will probably be included when her award nomination is featured on the screen. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri won the Golden Globes, and for a lot of people is a frontrunner for Best Picture. However, there are several people who didn't like the film, and found its themes and character arcs problematic. And while I would argue that is the point of the film, it certainly holds a lot of weight against it. The Shape of Water is most likely going to get the win for Best Director, and if we're following older Oscar trends, that would mean that it is a lock for Best Picture. But over the past 5 years, the categories of Director and Best Picture have been separated, and I'm pretty sure this year will be no different. While it is my favorite film of the bunch, and the film I'm most rooting for to win, fantasy films have a much harder chance of winning, with their only win being Return of the King, which was the third part of a trilogy, and was more of a cumulative award than a win for the merits that that particular film had itself. Get Out stands a very high chance of winning. It's a sharp social commentary on the subtle racism of white liberals, and is an allegory for the Black experience in America. Jokingly dubbed a documentary by Jordan Peele, Get Out blends horror and comedy in a way that feels fresh. While the film is light on its horror elements, horror has had a hard time even being nominated, with the last win being for Silence of the Lambs all the way back in 1992. That being said, Get Out has been dubbed the most 2017 film, and is certainly one of the most talked about films of the year. After talking to a handful of people, it might be a little much for some of the older crowd at the Oscars. Lady Bird ultimately is my pick for the win. Not because it was a personal favorite of mine, but because it is the only film that no one seems to dislike. It's a film directed and starring a woman, and I think it's going to be hard for a male-directed film to win when one of the criticisms at the Golden Globes was why wasn't a single woman nominated for Best Director. Yes, the film lacks the urgency and dramatic weight of several of the other films of the bunch, but 2017 was a hard year for a lot of people, and I could see that fact influencing voters. That, and this would be the second time a female-directed film won Best Picture, and the first time for a film that was actually about the female experience. Also, the mother-daughter relationship with Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf gives the parental relatability that the other films are lacking. So while many people will argue that it's a toss-up between The Shape of Water and Three Billboards, I'm expecting Lady Bird to win Best Picture and be the biggest surprise of the night. Just get your cards right this time, folks. What do you think will win Best Picture? Do you agree with me that it will be Lady Bird, or do you think it's going to be another film? What film would you like to have been nominated that wasn't? Thanks for watching, and keep holding your heads high. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you like the content I put on this channel, consider subscribing, and maybe donate $1 or $2 to our Patreon account. YouTube has been making it extremely difficult for small channels to be successful, and starting February 20th, it is very likely that I will lose any and all ad revenue placed on my videos, along with several other small channels out there. I will continue to put out these videos, and hopefully I will catch up before the Oscars actually come out.